This episode has been made possible by the support we get from Fort Collins Kia. If you are in the market for any electric Kia, not only do they never add market adjustments, they will deliver your car to you anywhere in the 48 contiguous states for out-of-spec viewers. More information in this episode's description. Hello and welcome back to the Out of Spec podcast. Unfortunately, Nikola, the electric and hydrogen semi-truck automaker, has gone bankrupt. They filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, and as I've mentioned in our Canoe video, Canoe recently went bankrupt. You can watch that video here. It'll also be in the description. But they also filed for bankruptcy. And likely what happens after bankruptcy is the end of an automaker. Now, Canoe filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy, where they have to really pay off all their debts, and there's a slim chance that they would come back. Nikola, on the other hand, filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, which allows them to reorganize a lot of their debts, pay off some of their debts, and continue operations. And so there's a chance that Nikola will come out of this a better company. Now, Nikola says they plan to sell off their assets through an auction and sale process. They currently have $47 million in cash on hand to fund limited operations through their bankruptcy, and selling off some of those assets, machinery, trucks, should help build up more of that cash. Now, Nikola has had an interesting life. They're founded in 2014 by Trevor Milton. You might recognize that name. They went public in 2020 during the EV IPO bubble, right? All those EV stocks were rising and being created 2020, 2021. And they had a valuation higher than Ford, $30 billion peak valuation. They signed a major deal with General Motors, which I think that later dissolved. Then there was a huge scandal. Trevor Milton was caught doing securities and wire fraud. Short seller Hindenburg Research also found some shady business that Nikola was doing. This is back in September of 2020. Trevor Milton went to jail in 2022, and I think as of today, I think a couple months ago actually, he's out of jail. So Nikola's had a pretty interesting world. Okay, CEOs and founders are going to jail, and they're caught up in scandals. And just the name Nikola in itself, right after Nikola Tesla, the engineer, named after Tesla Motors, also kind of named after Nikola Tesla. And so, right, we have Tesla Motors, Elon Musk, Tesla. And then you have Trevor Milton years later who was like, you know what? I like that name. I'm just going to take the first half and be Nikola. And so I think for years, people have always kind of put Nikola and Tesla at opposite ends of each other while they really don't compete that much. Now, Tesla does have their Tesla semi-truck, which they will be selling very soon. They're currently still building their production facility. But Nikola has actually been selling trucks for quite some time, just on free market for anyone to be able to buy. And that's what's been happening. Now, they've had over 3 million fleet miles. So all of the trucks they've sold have completed more than 3 million miles across both their hydrogen and battery electric truck platforms. And they built a hydrogen fueling network for their trucks and said they've dispensed over 330 metric tons of hydrogen. They've only produced 600 trucks, battery electric and hydrogen total since 2022. And they've had a ton of recalls, some software issues, and things have always looked pretty grim for Nikola. Now, Nikola says they're going to sell off their assets, allow buyers to take over operations so they're free of debt. Limited operations will continue until March, including some of their truck servicing, so servicing some of the trucks that are bought by companies, as well as some of their refueling stations. But this is bankruptcy, so uncertainty remains. We don't know if Nikola is going to come out of this and survive. As I said, Chapter 11 bankruptcy allows more flexibility for companies to operate and continue. But regardless, when a company files for bankruptcy, particularly an EV company, you're likely familiar with what happens. It kind of signals the end, but I don't hope that's the case. The same thing of whether it's been Fisker or Canoe or Nikola. I don't want to see an EV automaker go. More competition in the space. More competition in the space builds more innovation. And who doesn't love innovation? Who doesn't like EVs getting better and better, different designs that people may like, different technologies, different efficiencies. It becomes this battle between who's got the best technology. And that's how we get companies like Lucid and Rivian and Tesla really honing in on what they need to do to be able to get better and better EVs. Now, let's kind of read directly from Nikola's own website, where they're kind of addressing out in the open what's happening. Investors frequent answered questions. Phoenix, February 19th, 2025, Nikola Corporation, a global leader in zero emission transportation and energy supply and infrastructure solutions via the Hyla brand, today announced that the company and certain of its subsidiaries have filed voluntary petitions under Chapter 11 of the Bankruptcy Code in the United States Bankruptcy Court for the District of Delaware. Nikola has also filed a motion seeking authorization to pursue an auction and sale process under Section 363 of the U.S. Bankruptcy Code. Now, Nikola announced that the company and certain of its subsidiaries have filed voluntary petitions under Chapter 11 of the Bankruptcy Code in the United States Bankruptcy Court for the District of Delaware. This will enable the company to restructure its debt and implement an orderly wind down of the business while conducting a structured process to solicit interest in the sale of all, substantially all, or a portion of its operations. So it looks like Nikola likely isn't trying to come out of this and survive on their own, likely looking to be bought by another automaker, by another private company that would be looking to run and fund and scale Nikola's operations, which I think are totally possible, right? Nikola currently has working vehicles, and I think that's kind of the hardest part, building your vehicles, production of your vehicles. Now, it says, why is this happening now? Like other companies in the electric vehicle industry, we have faced various market and macroeconomic factors that have impacted our ability to operate. We have taken numerous actions in recent months to raise capital, reduce liabilities, strengthen our balance sheet, and preserve cash to sustain operations. Unfortunately, these efforts were not sufficient to overcome the current challenges. Nikola's board of directors has determined that Chapter 11 bankruptcy is the best possible path forward for the company and its stakeholders. How long will the Chapter 11 process take? When do you expect to merge from it all? We are actively working through the Chapter 11 process, but at this point it's too early to provide a firm timeline, which depends on several variables, including negotiations with creditors and potential asset sales. We are committed to resolving this as efficiently as possible. The best place to find information about this case is a link that Nikola provided, and this link pretty much is like a real basis for all of from the auctions that Nikola will be holding, a lot of their public hearings, bankruptcy hearings, everything down to the debtors that they like have and what they need to pay off. So quite a bit. You can actually see here on screen debtors, so all of the like companies that Nikola has in debt. So Nikola Properties likely owning the property that Nikola has, Nikola Subsidiary Corporation, Nikola Motor Company, LLC, actual company, Nikola Energy Company, likely, right, kind of holding that, their hydrogen infrastructure, Nikola Power Sports. I think a lot of people actually forget Nikola used to have a truck, and then they're also looking at selling, I believe, ATVs as well as jet skis. And so for quite some time, they were working on like electric and hydrogen vehicles. Remember, they had the Badger truck, and of course, like they had the electric ATV called the NZT. Pretty interesting looking vehicle. Honestly, that's why I don't want to see these this is why I don't want to see these EV automakers go, because we don't have a lot of competition and options in the electric ATV, off-road space in terms of like smaller vehicles like this. And it would be awesome. I mean, this looks like a pretty cool design. And if Nikola was really trying to compete, I imagine it would have been pretty innovative. And unfortunately, we're not going to get that as consumers. It's kind of a done deal. We're likely not going to be getting it. It's also worth mentioning that someone actually bought some of Nikola's, I think they're 2 working prototypes of the Nikola Badger, kind of like nuts. And yeah, you can see their jet skis in the background that they built, their ATV, as well as the Nikola Badgers. And I'll have this video linked in the description as well for any of those who want to watch it. But these were working trucks. These trucks actually worked. You can see their prototypes here. They had some prototypes of their ATVs, their jet skis, as well as their trucks. Clearly, they were working on having vehicles that could at some point be produced. They just couldn't find the funding for that. And if you're lucky, like Lucid, you'll get funding from a giant company and corporation. If you're lucky, like Rivian, you'll get funding from other automakers and another multi-billion-dollar corporation, trillion-dollar corporation like Amazon. But for most companies, it's extremely hard to find funding to help you bankroll the cost of running and producing vehicles to end up being a profitable and successful automaker. But again, clearly here, Nikola was interested in having them work. To my recollection from this video, both of these trucks actually ran under hydrogen power. So they were working vehicles. I believe one of them might have been a full battery electric truck. But Nikola was working on stuff. It kind of sucks. Another EV automaker bites the dust. I'm curious. I know a lot of people didn't like Nikola, right? Some of their fraud. Gosh, I remember they had that entire scandal where they rolled the semi-truck down the hill just to prove that the trucks were moving, but in reality, it couldn't work under its own power. That was a huge scandal. So I know a lot of people aren't like excited about Nikola, but I'm curious. I'll pass this question to you. What are your thoughts on Nikola? What do you think of Nikola? Are you pleased, satisfied that Nikola's going? It sucks. Again, I'm just not for any automaker, particularly EV automaker, leaving the space. But that's just part of the game at this point. It just happens. Thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Isaiah. This is the Out of Spec podcast, and I will see you guys in the next one.